I lived in Ronan, Montana for a short while, on a Salish Indian reservation. It was and still is the most beautiful part of the Rockies I've ever seen. I currently live and grew up in Colorado. Now, when I first moved there, I went there to go to Job Corps to be a diesel mechanic. It was a vocational school. Now, right when I got there, it got weird during orientation. One of the main concerns they expressed was: 1. Don't go on the reservation at sunset or after for your safety. 2. When on the reservation, do not disrespect the land, litter, or leave anything unnatural out there. Now, this kid Sean was from Colorado, just like me. On the same flight, actually. My roommate looked at me and whispered, weird. We became really good friends. Anyway, we began to notice the natives wouldn't go out in the dark. They would stick to light stops. My first full night there, I was a newbie. I had to wake up at 4:30 a.m. to prepare breakfast. My first night, I was dead asleep.
Wake up, bud, it's time to wake up.
I lazily crawled out of my bunk and noticed Sean was still asleep. I put on my flip-flops and peeled down the very long dorm hallway. Oh, there's someone at the end. Wyatt, who was the door leader, was meant to wake me up. But I noticed the silhouette doesn't move at all. The dorm is oddly dark. I start walking down the hall and start to feel like I'm walking in mud. I get to the center room, Wyatt's room. He is dead asleep. His alarm clock reads 3:08 a.m. and it's still there, probably 75 feet from me. I start to walk back with my eyes glued on it. I get back to my doorway and I swear to God I hear sprinting and I see it sprinting towards me. The second I pass the threshold for my door, I freeze. The stomping stopped. I flew back across the hall out of nowhere, maybe 10 feet. I couldn't scream. I get up and tried to wake Sean, but it wasn't happening. I climbed into my bed, shaking. I wake up to Wyatt actually waking me an hour later, confused. Was it a dream? Come to find out, people don't leave their bed pods after 12. Part 2, Skinwalker. It's been a hot minute. I've been here for 4 months. It's haunted as fuck. The reservation lake trail starts on the other side of a creek. It separates the campus from it. I've been sleeping with this Salish native who grew up down the road. We like to go out there and sit by the lake and watch the otters. But she'd never stay out long enough for the sun to touch the mountains. She'd freak out. We had to go. So one day, Sean was out there with us. We were smoking cigarettes and skipping rocks. Truly a beautiful place. She looks to our left and sees a deer, unusually close to us. Kind of like it hadn't noticed us. She starts chanting in Salish tongue and starts to panic. Then out of nowhere, she starts crying, bawling. Run! And she bolts off. Me and Sean stand up confused, but something about this deer. It stared at us, like not just at us, but our souls. We both started feeling really uneasy and tried to shake it off. It wouldn't move. We then noticed the sun was at the mountains. We started walking back. The deer followed 15 feet behind us, probably less. We started picking up the pace. Then we saw a raven sitting on a fence post not 4 feet away on the trail. It cawed. The deer was gone, but we should have seen which direction it went in, right? But it vanished. We still had but a mile left. We really fucked up. It got weird, and it got foggy. We couldn't see more than I don't know, about 20 feet in front of us. Then we heard and saw it. We smelt something like a dead animal. Off to the left of the trail, we hear what sounds like tearing and breaking. Being ballsy white boys in good shape, we make a few steps. We make out a figure. No clothes, and on the ground, antlers. "Josh, that's a deer," Sean whispers. "I know." And something was tearing at it. We start walking backwards, eyes locked. Sean trips on a rock and quietly said, "How?" It's too silent though. Whatever it was stopped doing what it was doing as if it were listening to us. Maybe it could hear us breathing. It then stood up on its legs, and they were really long and skinny. It was on 2 fucking legs, the arms folded down abnormally long. First thing that came to mind was the ice cream man from the movie Legion. No clothes, and its head turned our way. It smiled at us. And I'm not fucking around. It waved. Terror. Pure terror. We bolted. We sprinted and did not stop. It sounded like the world was ending behind us. Cracking, creeping, bushes rustling. We did not look back. We get close enough and started screaming for some help of the staff. They rush out to meet us. We both cried in our instructor's arms for a good half hour. As we connected with them in our sprint, they saw a taller, skinny man chasing us. And then they saw it dart off to the left into the fog and darkness. My girl was there too. She knew what we saw. Hell, they all did. Come to find out, if you lived on that land, you've seen him. They call him a Skinwalker. He appears as something you normally find pleasing and twists it into fear to get to your flesh. I never went back out there again, but I'd sit out on the other side of the creek and watch. I know we watched each other. It was either a skinwalker or whatever is attached. This is probably the creepiest, most unexplainable thing that has ever happened to me. I used to work overnight as a security guard at the local port. Usually none of the port workers would stay overnight except for the safety official. I wouldn't be on the night shift alone since the site has a radius of nearly 2 miles. Overnight, usually there would be 3 guards, including me. Since the area was fairly big, there were different posts, but front gate was the main entrance area where all of the guards would be stationed overnight, since there was no need to put them in other ports due to the fact that there was no activity in the site at this time. The veteran guards that have been there for years would often say that the site was haunted, given the fact that there have been accidents and deaths that occurred in the area a long time ago. I was aware that people died there due to freak accidents, and I do believe in angels and demons since I'm actually a religious person. But I always thought that the superiors were just messing with the new guys. I would work 5 to 6 nights out of the week, and for the first few weeks, I never really saw or heard anything out of the ordinary, except for maybe a few questionable creaks, and would see a few misplaced objects while doing my patrol rounds. But nothing too crazy. Just to describe the setting to you, this is a fairly big site, and on occasions when there were big projects being constructed at the port, the workers would sometimes stay overnight. Due to the fact that there were times where port workers were required to stay at the port for a few days, there's a gym in the site for their convenience. This gym is fairly old. In the gym there's a sauna, weights, and even a racquetball court. If you don't know what a racquetball court is, it's similar to an indoor tennis court, with thin plastered walls and thick glass doors. Usually on our patrol rounds, me and one of the other guards, Mike, would stop by the gym and play a few rounds of racquetball before returning back to the front gate. On one of those nights, me and Mike decided to hit a full workout instead of playing racquetball in the cage. This is around 2:30 a.m., and the entire building is so quiet that you can hear the electricity running through the lights. The air conditioner is off, and so is everything else. The only thing that's running are the lights. 15 to 20 minutes into the workout, we hear a loud thump. We crossed it off as nothing and continued working out. Then, after a few more minutes, we heard the loud thump once more. At first, we thought it was our lieutenant, which could have been walking around, but then we radioed him and he gave us his location, which was front gate. We tried thinking logically on what could be making those thumps on the wall. They were coming from the court on the other side. We thought it was the air conditioner, but then we remembered that it was off. And even when it's switched on during the day, there's no reports of thumps coming from the air conditioner. After a few more minutes, the thumps started occurring one right after the other. We were very creeped out at this point, but what we were about to witness still scares the absolute shit out of me till this day. We started to approach the other side of the gym to where the glass door was. We turned on the flashlight and aimed it towards the clear glass door, and I got chills all over my body, and I started tearing up so much out of fear that I was about to cry. We saw one of the balls rolling slowly by itself inside the court, but there was no one in there. So that means the loud thumps were the balls mysteriously being tossed against the wall as if someone or something was playing inside the cage. We were both so confused and frightened to how this was really happening. We couldn't make any sense of it. We were scared shitless, and we started yelling and running away because we knew that there was probably something evil toying with us right there. As we sprinted full speed back to the front gate, the lieutenant saw us and asked why we were tearing up and running in such a ridiculous manner. We told him what we witnessed, and his facial expression scared us even more. He then said, "That's why there's always guards that quit often. There's something evil in the area, and it's not the first time that something that bad has happened here." He then showed us security footage of dark figures and shadows literally passing through the office areas, and the lights mysteriously switching on and off. Till this day, I still get chills recounting my experience with my friends and family, and I'm even getting chills right now as I'm typing this. I never had a real encounter with the supernatural until that night. Many say it was a demonic presence messing around. Others say it was a ghost of a dead person who died in the area. I don't know what it was, but I didn't last long in the job after that. There were other experiences too. So this is another one of my experiences from working as an overnight security guard at the local port. This is another experience that scared the absolute shit out of me. This did not happen to me firsthand, since it happened to one of my coworkers, but since that incident happened during my shift, I would fear to even go to use the restroom alone. So, just to recap on a setting, the local port has a radius of nearly 2 miles, and there are 3 overnight security guards on the shift, including me. We were all at the front gate post, and it's about the size of a trailer home. The front gate post is separated from everything else on the site. Buildings, slabs, offices, the oil rigs, everything. It's the entry point to the entire industrial park. The offices and restrooms are about walking distance from our post, and it's really dark since there wasn't really any illumination around. Around 2 a.m., the lieutenant walked out of the post to go to use the restroom. The restrooms are deep in the center of the offices. The offices carry a very creepy vibe since they were constructed around the 1950s. So the wooden floorboards and walls were still the style there. About 7 minutes later, me and Mike look out of the post window to find our lieutenant sprinting back to the post. At first, we thought it was hilarious since he's a chubby dude, so we found it funny watching him run. Then a realization started to kick in. The lieutenant was the one who let out the fact that this site was haunted. He said that he's seen things, and that it really didn't startle him that much anymore. We slowly began to imagine and wonder what the fuck he had seen or heard that scared the shit out of this guy. I mean, it must have been bad enough for him to be running back in a very hysterical manner. The lieutenant opens the door to the post that me and Mike are in, and we are both speechless and just start staring at him while he catches his breath. After catching his breath, he tells us, "This is the last time that I will ever use the restrooms in that office building. I was taking a shit in the third stall, and then I heard the restroom door swivel open. I thought it was one of you, so I simply ignored it. But the thing is, I did not hear any footsteps. I was listening to music, but I paused it to see if I could hear anything. A few seconds went by and nothing. And then I heard the water faucet go off by itself. Then, a few seconds later, the air dryer also went off. I finished my business and I ran back as soon as I could because I knew it wasn't either of you in there." The creepiest part about this is that both the water faucet and the hand dryer are both motion activated. So in order for them to have gone off, something must have triggered it. Before this incident, I was already skeptical about using that restroom alone. I always hated taking shits at work during my night shift because I was always anticipating for something creepy like this to happen to me. The worst part is, when you're taking a shit, you're in a vulnerable position too. Also, those restrooms are way too deep in the building and it's pitch black inside. You would need a flashlight to go inside, and it's really quiet and creepy.